Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. And hi, it's David from the Practical Guitarist.
And Jim from the Practical Guitarist.
If you didn't know, that's what the name of the podcast is.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You probably heard that in the intro. Don't know. Maybe you skip it. Whatever.
I would.
Are you a regular listener? Why not? Subscribe to the Practical Guitarist using your chosen podcast app. Take the time to put in a review with the service where you found our podcast, like iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Get involved. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist. You can also find us on Twitter as @Pract Guitarist. And if you're interested in supporting the show, we have launched a Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And now we have Patreon, which is available, I believe, at patreon.com/Practical Guitarist. And I will put the actual link in the show notes. So if you'd like to reach out to us directly, as always, you can do so at questions@practicalguitarist.com. So before we move on, I want to make it really clear we're moving into the next phase of this podcast. And I want to thank Jason Fuzzmonger for being our first Patreon donor at some amount of money that I'm not going to mention. We will probably unpublish that number, but if you really want to look, you can go look right now.
It's at least 50 cents.
Yeah. So we have. Let me go over the Patreon donor levels while we're here, just because I can, and they're funny. Okay, so we have level 1, which is basic support. That means you support the show, you keep our lights running, and thanks for that. That is $1 to $5. At $5, you become a super supporter. We've got you on speed dial. You keep the content going, and with your help, we can keep it flowing. And then we have our $10 tier, which is known as the patron of the dark arts. Of our dark arts, rather. And if you have our ear, if you want something talked about, we'll make it so. Patrons of our dark arts get access to content early when possible, too. And we'll buy you a beer. And then the final tier
on Amazon, a beer on Amazon.
No, we're gonna buy you a beer in person when we see you. So it means we have to be in the same vicinity with reasonable accuracy. We'll work with you. So, and then the last tier, and this is the one that everybody should be donating at, by the way. This is the $500 tier, and basically this is the devil will know. Okay, and what that means is if you pay us $500 a month, we'll come to your location and we'll hang out with you. Then that means if I have to get on a plane and go there, I'll get on a plane and I'll go there. Like I'm not kidding. I'll bring my guitar, probably bring some sort of gun to deal with the stalker, and that'll be that. So
I don't think you'll be able to bring
that. No, that won't come on the plane.
No, yeah, there's that whole TSA thing.
So
the toilet safety agency.
With all fairness, we do have these tiers. A lot of the benefit you get from this show is completely free, and literally we've been struggling to come up with the tiers because we want to make sure that you guys get something for your money. So if that means we have to be more open and available, we'll do that. But at this point, this is the best we can come up with. If you guys got other suggestions or options, I'm going to be reading up and seeing what other people are doing to kind of give us some better ideas of how we can provide, you know what? We're explicit. How we can whore ourselves out for you. So
that's right. That's right. And we're not above whoring ourselves out.
Nope, not at all. Isn't that what this podcast is?
That's exactly what a podcast is. You know, I want to say something. Our listenership is growing. We appreciate it. And like I said, if there's anything positive or negative that you need to be able to say or you'd like to be able to say, please do.
We're totally open to it.
That's right.
We've made changes to the show because people have told us things. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. That's absolutely right. And people tell us things. And so some of those things are good and some of those things are bad. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, for the most part, there's been so much positive review and so much positive feedback. I want to say this with you on here. You work so hard getting this together. We do this twice a week. So David does prep work and post work every week, twice a week, and it's hours and hours.
Oh yeah.
And I just sit here and run my mouth, and then I say, "Hey, thanks." And I go to bed.
Jim's full of shit on that too, by the way. Jim's doing some stuff too. But there's a lot of work that goes into running a podcast, and I didn't realize it when we first started. I figured, we just sit down and we'll talk and we'll record it and we'll just post it. But
that's kind of the way it was in the beginning, in the beginning, we didn't care. We didn't care about lighting. We used shitty microphones. There was no real audio care. You know what I mean?
Well, I think what happens, and this is just based on my talking with other podcast hosts, is that you go through this period where everything is complicated and you're making it more complicated. And then all of a sudden, like, everything shrinks back to normal and you're like, all right. Because it becomes commonplace. Like right now, I mean, even the use of condenser mics, at least one podcast that I know of, they've gone back to using dynamic mics because they said dynamic mics are, if you're comfortable with the microphone now, you don't need the large diaphragm condenser to capture your voice around the microphone. It's less even, and it allows you to control the environment better. So It's just little stuff like that. Like, we're not comfortable doing everything we need to do this show yet. I mean, yes, we're at 50 episodes. We have not hit a year yet.
Yeah,
we're
a lot of other podcasts. 50 episodes would definitely be pretty much close to a year. I mean, once a week, 52 weeks a year. And we're at 50 episodes, and we're 7 months into this, 8 months.
Yeah, we're at 50 something episodes. I think we're like 54 or 55 now. I haven't counted in a while.
And by bringing 2 episodes a week, and we don't want to bore you with this any longer, by bringing you 2 episodes a week, we hope that the content is something that you're enjoying, and we hope to be that ear. I was thinking about this, and this is finally content. I was thinking about this as I was driving in today. Instead of having to listen to the radio, and no offense to the music, unfortunately, a lot of radio stations now are, as Don was talking about on our earlier podcast this week, their music is shoved down their throats.
Yeah. And
so we're getting nothing but crap fed to us, right? Where now we can pay. I mean, when you think about it, Patreon, if all you did was support the channels you liked in Patreon, you would still pay less than you pay for satellite TV. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly,
satellite radio. That's what I meant.
We have at least 200 people in the group, right?
Right.
And if everybody gave us, a dime, that would pay for the hosting fees for the month.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. So, I mean, when you look at it that way, and as we grow, hopefully those things will change. That will modify. And if you think about the other content that we get, we as content listeners and watchers, if you only supported, say, 3 or 4 not podcasts, but YouTube channels at $5 a month, think about it. Your quote unquote cable bill will be $15 to $20.
Right.
There's no tax. There's no fees on your part. We're not asking you for transport fees. The cable company is shoving 475 channels down your throat when you want 3.
Right. Right.
And I'm just saying that now people can consume their, their listening and their watching entertainment, video and audio entertainment without having to spend a pile of money.
Right.
I think that's a pretty good thing.
Right. So let's move on. We've run our telethon long enough.
Thank you, Jerry Lewis. You can get out of the building now.
We appreciate all of you.
I'm sorry.
We appreciate all of you, and that's why we do this. So anybody who wants to write in and give us commentary, criticism, ask questions, like, you will fuel this show. That's how we work. So that being said, and that seems to be my catchphrase as of late, by the way. We got some what's news this week, right? I mean, we didn't cover the. We did via the YouTube channel. The big what's new. Before we go on, Jim has officially resigned his post as Year of No Gear guy. He has lost. Let's just all be honest here. However, to his credit, no, never mind.
I lost. It's as simple as that.
You got a hell of a consolation prize, though.
I think that the way you have to look at this is this. I tried to get that trim for you so that you could have a no scratch.
You worked
trim,
super hard to get me that trim, Jim.
which, by the way, has to go to a box. You've got to send me your address. But and now you're telling me, oh, I lost. Wait a minute. I think I'm the winner. If you see that beautiful blue SG, you know you're a winner.
Well,
that pellet blue, man.
Do you know who's the winner? I'm going to be honest with you, Jim. Do you know who really is the winner? The podcast.
Yes.
Because now I can move on with these fuzz demos and I can go buy the other stuff I need to finish the shootouts.
Absolutely.
But that being said, I have to come up with a system by which that stuff does not enter into my regular rig because I'm still doing Year of No Gear. I plan on carrying through with my promise of not buying frivolous gear for myself for a year. So,
yep.
We can still have our regular updates. There is a new hashtag, though. There's a hashtag for anybody who's interested. It's Get Jim on the Wagon.
Get Jim back on the wagon. Hashtag Get Jim back on the wagon. So I didn't even wait till August 3rd. It's terrible. I was going to wait until August 3rd, but the guy had mentioned something about a flake that wanted to wait 10 days to pay him. Like,
you lasted 22 days, Jim.
Almost there.
22 days. Hey, let's be honest, though. How many people in this group, when we told them we were going to do this, like just straight up had a panic attack?
Oh, yeah.
When I was at GearFest and I was telling people I'm doing this after GearFest, they were like, how are you going to do it? And I'm like, it's easy. I'm going to keep my wallet in my pocket. It's not that hard. But admittedly, it was harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it still is. You're not done if you go a full year.
No, I'm not done. I'm not even close. I'm not even looking at myself as being done. But that being said, I can loosen up the reins a little bit because the competition's over. So that means if I want to bring in something for the show, I can do that. But I got to be, like, for my own personal mindset, I got to keep it out of my gear,
Right. And so one of the things that I think people want to take from this is, so David has been doing some fuzz shootouts. And if you've been watching the videos, wow, he got a dislike before he got any likes, by the way.
Yeah, I really pissed somebody off.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you pissed at somebody's Wheaties over their love for the Band of Gypsies.
All right.
Sure so
all right. So let me get the background. So I started out. I was going to do this thing called Fuzz Facts, and I'm still doing it. Fuzz Facts is basically like we're going to take fuzz pedals and we're going to take a closer look at how you use fuzz because I think fuzz is the only dirt section that still has people divided. Like, a lot of people are like, I don't like fuzz, and I'm not just saying you, Jim, but like, there's people out there like, no, fuzz is stupid, it's pointless. Yep. And I want to kind of dispel that myth and show different ways that you can use it, because I think that the tendency is when you get a fuzz pedal in the store and you try it out, like, it's just to do those crazy, like, over compressed, over distorted tones, and there's so much more to it than that. So, I have every intention of continuing the Fuzz Facts series, and I started out, I only had the Band of Gypsies fuzz, which I had received as a gift around Christmas last year. And lo and behold, I ordered the Sunface right before we did Year of No Gear. We started Year of No Gear, and I got that thing. All right, so the first video is just the Band of Gypsies, and you can see it's a fuzz face. Like, it operates like a fuzz face. It's not actually a fuzz face, because we'll get to that in a minute. So I did the Sunface shootout, or I did the Sunface video, where I went through all the stuff on there, and I put together even a composed track so that you could see how it sits in a mix and what you could do with it. And then I did, and this is the one that got people, I did the comparison between the two. And I'm going to do those versus videos, but they're going to be shorter, and they're just going to have subtitles. I don't think I'm actually going to do any commentary on them, because that's more for in-depth, like, let's talk about this pedal. The versus video compared the Band of Gypsies and the Sunface, and I didn't get a lot of traction at first when I posted it. I got like 4 views last night, but one of them was a dislike, like Jim said, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So the plot thickens. I go to the gear page today, right? And I'm promoting the show. I mean, it's obvious I'm promoting the show, but I'm also asking questions too. And I said, All right. So I did this video. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on what you like. Like, let me know how you feel about it. Is it worth getting the other Fuzz Face minis to compare? Because that's been the mindset all along, was to get them all. And somebody posted, they said, well, technically the Band of Gypsies is not a Fuzz Face. And I'm like, well, Dunlop seems to think it is. And I said, I know it's based on an Octavia without the in the Octavia there's a transformer that helps handle the upper octave, which you get above the 12th fret. So what I did is I looked at the schematic, and holy hell, it's not. It's got 3 transistors. Fuzzface only has 2. It's got about it's got about twice as many components, believe it or not,
wow.
Which is like 18 components.
Yep.
Some stupid low number like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you think about it, okay, so what we don't appreciate also is transistors have continually gotten smaller.
Oh yeah.
You know, and there was a time when you could pull out a transistor and you could look at it, and it was, you know, not quite as big as, you know, your earbuds. Now, you could put a transistor, you know, in, you know, you could put a few transistors in your fingernail.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so they're still making the Fuzzface circuits, even the minis. They're discrete components because those boards are so damn small. They should have been that small to begin with. Like that pedal is a dinner plate, and it's a dinner plate with a board on it that's the size of like a matchbook. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah.
It makes no sense why they did that.
I think so. I think it was so that stoners and drunks could see it.
It was a marketing thing too, because it looks like a flying saucer. It looks like a smiley face. There's a couple of things they did there that were kind of cool. But nevertheless, so now I know I've got to get the germanium one. Like I have to, because now people are like, well, this is not really a fair comparison because you took the one that's basically an Octavia and you compared it to the Sunface. All right, fine. Fuck you. I'm gonna go get the germanium one, and then we're gonna play, and we're gonna see which one's better. Because I can guarantee you right now, I played the germanium, I played the silicon version too. Yep. I've also played the Hendrix one. I've owned the Hendrix one, and I gotta say, this Sunface just clobbers them all. Just clobbers them. It's absurd.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. We're gonna do that. But I have a feeling that has something to do with why I got that dislike. Was like somebody's like, well, this is technically not a fuzz face anyway. It cleans up just like one. It acts like one.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it that way, okay, you got me.
Yeah, it's like, but even Dunlop's marketing like one. I mean,
exactly. And if Dunlop is out there going, hey, see this, you know, this thing. It's a fuzz face, and it's not a fuzz face. Don't turn around and then say, hey, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, neither does Dunlop.
So,
you know what I mean?
If anybody else wants to see some pedal comparisons like that, I have Good Time Music, and I probably should promote this. I don't pedals over here, so I can pull it up and we can look at it. They gave me their End of the World Fuzz to demo for the podcast. Good Time Music is my local music store. I've mentioned him on the show before. I'd like to have Pat on at some point. He's the owner or operator of the place. And he has these pedals commissioned by a local builder. And they're fantastic. I actually have their compressor. And I've played this thing before, too. So I kind of know what to expect. But it's more of a muffy thing. I want to do some muff stuff, too. Because I've got several different muff-style pedals. But I think you can get lost in the minutia of how many different types of muff there are out there. I mean, there's probably 100 or 130 different like factory muffs that came out of EHX over the years. So just to like stop and take prize of all that is kind of crazy. To put it in retrospect, even the Fuzzface has probably 20 or 30 variations over the years, just different circuits built by different people, because it started out with, like, I think it was Dallas Arbiter originally. So we're going to get to that stuff too. If there's any other pedals you guys want me to shoot out, I'm going to get a Soul Food 2 as soon as I can find one at a decent price, because I'm going to start shooting out Klons as well. And I'm not a huge Klon guy, but I played enough of them that I can say, generally speaking, they're all very different. Like, everybody's idea of what the Klon is supposed to sound like is just completely different. The best one I played is actually Good Time Music's. So he's already told me to lend me one. So once I get a Soul Food to shoot it out with, then we'll we'll go from there. Soul Food Gym is the EHX clone. So if you didn't know.
Yeah. I've seen the there's Plimsoll. So I'm just not a big. Obviously, I'm not a big fuzz guy. But
the clone's not a fuzz. That's a drive.
The thing is that if anybody, I know. I think that if anybody was going to send me pedals, it would be drive pedals. And to be honest with you, there's so many people doing great drive pedal things, but not really a whole lot of people are doing fuzz.
Can we stop and we talk about drive pedals for a minute?
Yeah.
All right. So drive pedals, like how many freaking Tube Screamer clones do we need?
Right.
We gotta get Adam Dolhanek on this show, and he's been on my short list of people to get on this show for a while. He has a website where he talks about the JHS controversy, and I'm not going to go too deep into that. But JHS is one of these companies, and they've produced a lot of Tube Screamer variants. And then they came out with this thing called the Bonsai, which has, if I recall, it's got a knob on it that allows you to select like every variation of the Tube Screamer that's been released. And of course, Earthquaker Devices has their they have their Palisades or something like that. No, it's the Dunes is the smaller one. The Palisades. That's basically a Tube Screamer with a bunch of mods, and you flip a knob to get different mods. Both are really cool concepts, but it's like the fact that those pedals exist should make it really clear to everybody that the Tube Screamer is overdone. Yeah, I can guarantee you, if I go on the gear page right now and troll around for a minute, I will find a new fuzz face from some build, or not fuzz face, a new Tube Screamer from some builder this week.
Yeah,
it's just gonna happen. Same thing with clones; they blew up too. Now everything's a clone.
Oh, so a friend of mine, and I proof of this was that a few months ago he had it up for sale that I played with. He had a clone, and I didn't know, and he didn't know what he had.
Yeah.
Because he bought it when
you bought them from Bill Finnegan, they're like $230 or something when you sell them originally.
I mean, he just knew he liked it. It was a decent pedal, and he purchased it.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that. So he purchased it based on the fact that it was good, but it wasn't a clone of anything. So what's the big deal? My problem is, it's not just in pedals. It seems like every guitar is a clone of another guitar. There's very few quote unquote original guitars. I mean, Paul Reed Smith has an original body shape in the custom field. Now, you get into the single cut, and we can talk about how it looks like a Les Paul all day, and so on and so forth. Ibanez has their look. I mean, not really a lot of people, but it's like, it seems like every company that's trying to get their foothold in this stuff has a clone. And the problem is right now, I mean, even Ibanez is cloning their own pedals.
Yeah, they're making Tube Screamer knockoffs. They're not knockoffs because it's Ibanez.
But they are knockoffs. That's just it. Let's take another company, have them make a Ibanez Tube Screamer clone, and then give our name to it. We'll put our name on it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's... So, I even see, like, Boss as, you know, they were kind of looking at the Tube Screamer design and when they made the SD1, the Super Overdrive, and, that pedal sounds pretty drastically different, but that's because they added some things to the circuit. But again, that's what, so I can see both sides of this argument. Everybody who goes, oh, there's, a million different Tube Screamers, but they all have mods to them. Well, okay, but when does a mod stop being a mod and start being a completely different design? Because, I would definitely say the Super Overdrive has characteristics of a Tube Screamer in it. It definitely does. Like the tone control and all that kind of stuff seems almost identical. But because of the clipping stages being different, it's a drastically different pedal. And I actually had this discussion with one of the guys from Function Effects a while back when I asked him. They make a pedal called the Third Rail.
Yep.
And I was having a conversation with one of the designers, and I said, what is the Third Rail based on? Like, where did it come from? Where did it descend from? And he said, well, he's like, actually, it's kind of my own thing. Like, he's like, there's a little bit of DoD 250 in here. There's a little bit of Tube Screamer. There's, he's like, I took inspiration from a lot of different things. So I think that mashup approach is probably a little bit more viable. But again, you got guys like Analog Mike Pira, who he's no joke. Like, his business is based on the fact that I can do it the way that they did it originally. And I'm not just talking about tube screamers, but like pretty much everything he does. And then I can take it one step further and make it better than it was originally. Whereas all these other companies that have tried to do that over the years, their idea of better is making it cheaper and maybe improving quality through something, but like not if it screws their bottom line. Whereas Analog Man just says, hell, I'll just charge more for it.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine,
they are proof that it will still sell.
So somebody asked me in the gear page thing that I posted about my video, they asked me, I said, well, what do you think? I mean, who do you think is the target market for the Sunface that I bought? And I said, well, it's the professional market. Like, I don't really see what he does aimed at anybody but somebody who's got these vintage things that they already own and they know they're great and they've used them on the road for years and they're breaking. And then they're sitting there going, I got to have a replacement that sounds just like it. That's when you go to somebody like him, or you go to somebody like Brian Wampler or Keeley, and you say, hey, I need you to mod this pedal to be like this other one.
Right.
So, again, we're living in the golden age. And I was having this discussion with Sean Wright via private message. We're living in the golden age of pedals right now. Anything you could possibly want a pedal to do, either it's coming in the next year or two, or it's already happened. And it's not expensive to get them, and it's not hard to get them either. I fear, because so many of these guys are operating out of their garage, that we're going to see the market shrink. Because I don't see how the sales market is going to continue at the same pace as the amount of guys selling it. It's the same thing as like the microbreweries. Everybody's been saying for years that market's going to crash. There's so many microbrewers, and only so many people that will continue to just like buy all these different beers and stuff. And at some point, there's going to be oversaturation of the market. Yeah,
and we're going to lose. I don't care about the microbreweries. I drink Sam Adams, but we're going to lose a certain section of the market of sales, and innovators are only going to innovate, as you spoke to earlier, so much for so little money. So not everybody can be Analog Mike. Not everybody can say, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to charge more. But not everybody can be Brian Wampler. Somebody is going to be, the loser. And the other thing we've never had the way we have right now is the number of people who know these folks, in the community. Yeah. And when I say that, when I grew up, I didn't know who the hell was behind a pedal.
Yeah. Just the fact that we're talking about when Dunlop hired George Trips. Like, wait a minute, what? Like, how the hell do we even know who George Trips is?
Right.
Like, that's just
and why do we care?
Situation.
Exactly. But we do know, and we do care. And because we know them, we know their names. Sometimes we know them personally.
Yeah, I think personality is a huge thing, but I think also knowing that, like, George Trips obviously knows his stuff. Like, he's been designing stuff for 20 years. He's built pedals like the Way Huge Red Llama and stuff like that, which are highly sought after, go for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars used. Somebody with that knowledge, that amount of knowledge that allows him to design a pedal and implement a pedal like that. And same thing with Analog Mike. I mean, he's been building and modifying stuff for so long. He can literally tell you things like, oh yeah, the spec sheet for the fuzz face says AC 128 transistors. Well, they never use them. Like, I've never in my years of working and modifying people's circuits ever opened one and found AC 128s. Like, that's the kind of stuff that everybody else is. Hey, you can go right now. You can go on Sweetwater or Guitar Center, and you can buy a fuzz face with AC 128s in it. And they're like, oh, this is authentic. No, it's not. Because you're just building off the schematic, but that's not what they actually ended up using. Like,
right.
It's a whole thing. And so we want these guys with the knowledge, right? So Robert Keeley's, your who is a professor of electronic engineering, by the way. Your Robert Keeley's, your Brian Wampler's, who's indie guitarist fame. He started modifying pedals, and now is almost godlike at it. And all of those guys that came from that generation like have this wealth of knowledge, and maybe they're sharing it with people like ZVEX and stuff like that. But we look for these personalities because we know those guys know their shit. Their whole reputation is built on that. Yeah. So I think that's why it's gotten personal. I mean, honestly, Dunlop, that was a huge sales thing for them. Like, we hired George Tripps. And by the way, a lot of the MXR stuff now is designed by George Tripps. They won't tell you that. Like the MXR Classic Fuzz. Yeah, that's the George Tripps circuit. Like, he designed that pedal. And it doesn't have a way huge, name on it. But he made it for them. He works there, He has his line of pedals he does too, but he also works on their other stuff. And that guy, so even though people know who he is, he does not have the same level of like clarity and status with a lot of people today that somebody like Robert Keeley does, for example. Yeah. And no real rhyme or reason for that.
Yeah, no. But we, again, what I was getting at here is, though, that we didn't care. And now we care. We care about them as people. Oh, he's a nice dude.
Yeah, I think some people do. I think some people do. I mean, I don't find myself going, like, I know people have this, the classic example is Mike Fuller of Full Tone. Yep. People hate him. And he has had some pretty nasty conversations with people that have leaked out via email and stuff. Mike Fuller, I don't know him, so I'm not going to say a whole lot of horrible shit. But he's been nasty to some of his customers. And, but
we don't know. The problem is we don't always know what led up.
Right, exactly. That's where I was going with this.
And so, if you've ever had somebody poke until you just can't stand it and you just say, shut up, you just blow up at them. It's unfortunate. It happens. But, and then that becomes that, unfortunately, that one, oh shit, as we used to call it in the Navy, becomes your defining moment.
Now,
and it should be.
There are two exceptions to people not caring about the people that are selling their stuff that have existed for quite a while, to my knowledge. One is Roger Mayer, who's been producing pedals for years. Mm-hmm. I mean, basically, 10 years after Hendrix's death or something, he had a pedal company. People were buying him because they knew Roger Mayer was involved. Right. And then the other guy, again, that's a knowledge sale. They know Roger Mayer knows the stuff because he was building them for Jimmy. At least he knew about, those sounds. Yep. And then the other example is Pete Cornish.
Right.
Who...
Oh, yeah, Cornish. No, come on.
I don't think he was super well known to everybody, but at least for the Rigs of the Stars, I mean, look at David Gilmour. How much stuff Gilmour had built from
Cornish.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
I mean, that's where I know the name from.
Yeah. But, he built for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. I knew
Brian May.
Brian May, yep.
And he was building boards. Like, what he was doing is he's taking stuff. You had a bunch of effects. Like, he would just take the boards and stuff them into his, like, box. And you'd have this roadworthy box to take on tour with you.
Yeah. But, I mean, we're in a world. People are going to see Disney World, or Disney's movies, too, still. Yeah. They go to Disney World.
Sure.
Walt Disney was the biggest racist you could shake a stick at. He made Roseanne Barr look like, name a liberal who loves everybody. But people are still buying their stuff. I'm just saying that at that point, a lot of people didn't know it. And people didn't know him. So they didn't know about what he was like. And now it's too big. Could you imagine if nobody went to Disney World tomorrow? Because some of the things they knew about Disney? I mean... So we're on a different planet. So people have to put on a face. And that doesn't mean, have you ever seen after someone finds out that they had a serial killer in their midst, or
Yeah,
when
it's
they found out that the next door neighbor
was the
hiding.
nicest guy.
Yeah.
That's what all my neighbors say.
Jeffrey Dahmer, and people, he was such a, he was so quiet, and, never thought anything was weird with that guy. Oh, you didn't have a sandwich with him, I hope. I mean, the point is that, you've got this world of people that we think we know. We don't really know them. Until you live with someone, you don't know them. And even some of these people, they hide stuff from their wives. So I'm just saying, I never assume that I know a person.
Yeah.
No matter how.
Yeah, I mean, you can. So I know other podcasts, and I'm not trying to burst their balloon or anything. Who have met these people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're good dudes," and we hang out and whatnot. And that may be true, but there's also a business relationship there too. And I'm not saying that's tainting things, but it could. And what I think the bigger issue is that they know you're the press. Right. Like, how often do you see, other than our president, do you see people pissing on the press? I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Exactly. And look at the way he's been treated. Not to say he deserves it or doesn't deserve it. This is not a political podcast. I'm just saying that look at how the press treats him as a result of the way he is to them.
So, that being said, I'm not poo-pooing anybody in the podcast community from having these relationships with these builders and stuff. No. That's great. Actually, I think it's really cool.
And I'm not saying that these people aren't good people.
That's exactly the opposite.
Right.
Exactly.
We don't know.
Use our brains and realize that they're on the dark side of the moon because you can't see the inside of their brain.
Right. Exactly.
So, wow. We're just to give you a heads up, Jim. We're at 36 minutes and flying.
Well, there's something else we haven't talked about since we're already pissing in people's Wheaties.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about the pussy melter.
Oh yeah, that's enough of that.
All right. So, yeah, pretty much that's it. I mean, first of all, it's a tone print. It has a name, pussy melter.
Jim said it.
I don't know if everybody doesn't remember this, but I remember a Van Halen album called OU812.
Oh, I no. Full of unlawful carnal knowledge.
For unlawful carnal knowledge. For unlawful carnal knowledge.
Yeah, can we spell out the acronym?
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, come on, people. This stuff. Has anybody ever actually seen an interview with
Satchel?
Satchel. The guy sits there and does duck face the whole time. And holds up a mirror and looks at how beautiful he is because he's making fun of himself.
He's not himself. He's parodying all of the 80s, 70s like glam metal stuff.
Right, the whole glam metal scene. So he is making fun of all that stuff. He knows that he's not that person.
I get it. People are offended.
He's an actor. Come on.
People are offended by the name, and I understand it. And I, honestly, I think I said this in the group. TC Electronics probably shouldn't have allowed it to be put up in the first place. They should have talked to Satchel and been like, "Look, can we come up with a little bit more politically correct, funny name for your preset?" And I'm sure the guy that is Satchel would be like, "Yeah, we'll come up with something else." Actually, what they call it, the butt something.
Yeah,
that would have been. Because that's gender neutral, right?
Here's the thing that I'm going to say about that. I don't think you could really come up with a gender neutral, funny name for what they were trying to say. And I think that the problem that we have is, honestly, I don't think there's a bit of people can go and rant and rave all they want. I don't think that you brought one person who was going to or goes to or whatever. Supports the band in any way. They're going to continue.
If anything, you lost customers because they're going to be like, "Come on, guys, you guys are being dicks."
Right. And if anything, the only thing that has happened has been that the person that stood up actually got. I mean, there's threats on this person.
Yeah. So that's why I said I honestly think TC just. They should have prevented this from happening to begin with.
Well, all the TC had to do was say.
I'm just saying I don't see this as
on their site.
This isn't Satchel's fault. Okay,
right.
He did his shtick. Everybody knows what his shtick is, and if they didn't like it, they shouldn't have gone to Satchel to begin with.
Absolutely. But if you're an agnostic or an atheist, and Trans-Siberian Orchestra comes up with a love of God tone, are you going to come after them too? Where do we draw the line? Where do we say it's not okay?
Well, I'll tell you,
one of my favorite AC/DC songs is "Girls Got Rhythm." I'm pretty sure I know what the meaning of the song is, but I'll check to make sure.
All right. So here's I really want to kill this as fast as we can because I did not want to talk about this, but this is the only counter argument that I've heard that's actually fairly convincing as to why we should have that TC Electronics should have revisited that situation.
Yep.
Would we have felt the same way? And I know what you're going to say because I probably agree with you. But would we have felt the same way if they had an effects pedal preset called the Dick Wiggler?
I wouldn't. I would have thought it was hilarious. But I watched South Park, so what do I know?
But would you have used the Dick Wiggler?
Well, I don't know if I would have used the Dick Wiggler, only because unless it sounded good. I mean, if it sounded good, why not?
Nobody's going to know. It's not like the tone print shows up on the pedal.
It's not like,
it's only in the app.
When you switch to it, right? When you switch to it, it says Dick.
It shoots up fireworks that spell out Dick Wiggler.
Yeah. Or it does like the South Park thing where the guy's wiener falls off. I mean, it's just, oh, come on. I mean,
there's been some great comedy that's come out of this whole controversy, though.
Yes,
particularly Ryan Burke's video where he spent like 10 minutes just staring at the camera and being like, yep, this is what we're going to do here. And then he has a beer in it. And then he burps a couple times. And then he's like, seriously, guys? And then that's like basically the video.
I mean, how many times have we sat around and said, they could never make X movie, and I don't care, insert movie here, again, because of the content of the movie.
Right.
Although it is, one, hilarious, or B, dramatic, or C, horrific, whatever kind of movie it is that you love, they could never do it again because today. Well, we got to stop. Satchel is a comedian doing a comedy. That is his shtick. It just has music in it, but it is hilarity nonetheless. And we've got to look at it that way. And if we looked at it that way, I think more people would say, it's not such a big deal. Now, of course, I'm not a woman, and I'm not being.
Not all women are offended by it either, and that's the thing. Like, we have to remember that people carry their own baggage to these problems. So
Correct.
Words, he may listen. I want to clarify what I'm saying very carefully. A particular person I know posted a thing about words being used as weapons, and I didn't want to get into it with him because he had some real heartfelt things that he said, and I agreed with most of what he was saying, but words aren't weapons, okay? The only thing that gives words power is how we apply meaning to it. So if I say, I'm not going to say anything that would potentially harm anyone, but if I were to say something offensive, it's only offensive because you find it that way, because you have put something on top of that word. And so that's what goes on here. This is why some women, my wife included, Jody Trivedi, and others, are looking at this controversy and just laughing their asses off because they're like, it's stupid. It's just dumb. Nothing there makes sense. Right. And so I totally get it. Like, this whole thing, like, it's just words that have a certain implied meaning for certain people. And so that's why I kind of look at it and go, look, the only reason they should be censoring this thing is because tone prints are, there's nothing in the tone print user agreement that says you have to be 18 or older.
Right. And that's the only place that I can say, okay, that you shouldn't use that.
Right. I think there's an age limit on it. And look, if you're an adult and you go into an adult bookstore and you buy something, look, I don't judge you. I don't care. That's the thing. Like, we have an age limit on that, and you're an adult. You can pick what you want, and maybe I find it offensive or not, but the thing is, I'm not going to I'm not going to go up to you and say, you got to burn that book because you bought it. You know?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
We're kind of coming back to the 80s with
yeah, where's Tipper Gore? Where's Tipper Gore at it?
Where's Tipper Gore? You know, I mean, you know, I think what's his face from Twisted Sister needs to step in and because what the heck's his name? The lead singer from Twisted Sister. Gosh darn it.
D. Snyder.
Anyway, D. Snyder. D. Snyder needs to come back and talk to people and give a another heartfelt speech. You know.
Well,
again, we give, like you said, I think we should drop it there where we give words power. Right. Every word that has power is because we provide that word with power, and if we don't, it doesn't have it.
Frank Zappa said something, and I was going to look up the quote, but I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to just paraphrase it. And this is what I think of when I think of this stuff. Frank Zappa said, "There is no word in the English language that upon hearing it will condemn you to hell automatically."
There you go.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's where it ends.
Yep.
Anyway.
Moving
along, how about the swollen pickle? All right, so you've used one of those, haven't you?
Yes.
So, yeah, so I mean, moving along, we've got to, you know, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today also is so we've got in the world of news, guitar news. We need one of those sound effects.
I'm not flying shit in. I spent so much time editing this damn podcast and still screw it up. I'm not flying anything in. You got 15 minutes, Jim. Let's go.
It's hard. So, in guitar news, what kind of guitars are we seeing these days that are interesting? Well, the other day I was watching. Yesterday I was watching the Trogley show. And,
oh God, we have to talk about this.
Okay, so all right. So I'm not going to say anything negative, but the guy bought that. Remember that SG that had no head? It was a broken headstock, and they had like the headstock. It looked like it was put in the body.
Yeah,
he bought that thing.
Yeah,
he showed it. He demoed it. And first of all, it sounded like ass.
Was he the one? No, he was the. I think he was the owner of it originally and was selling it on Reverb.
No, he was not the original. He found the original owner. What happened was that
no, he wasn't. You're right. He wasn't the original owner, but he collects like rare internet instruments.
He finds weird internet instruments. He's the guy you were thinking of.
Right.
And so he got this guitar because what happened was somebody broke I thought that the backstory was interesting. Somebody broke the guitar. They tried to fix it twice, and both times the headstock fell back off. So they didn't do a very good job.
Someone clearly does not understand how glue and clamps work, okay?
Yeah, because that never should have happened. As a matter of fact, I've heard many stories that when a broken headstock happens and it's repaired, it's stronger than it ever was. But only because, I mean, obviously you do a lot of support for the headstock to make sure it doesn't re-break. Anyway, long story short, the headstock broke off a couple times. So they did this silly thing with it, and the guy didn't like it. So he sold it to another guy who wanted an SG for studio stuff, didn't care what it looked like. So he bought it. He hated it. So it lived with this guy for years, but he only took a picture of it from the front. And this was why Trogley bought it, is because he was like, I want to see the back of it. And so he bought it so he could see the back of it. And so half the video is just showing the front, so he'd finally see the back of it. And it is not the original headstock. It's just the original veneer from the headstock is put on there. And the back has a little bit of the back of the headstock, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it is a fascinating piece. Here's the thing about Trogley's show. So he buys these weird-ass guitars. He buys these things that I don't think anybody... How does he sell anything? Who wants this crap? I mean, it's interesting for about 3 seconds, and then it's crap.
Oh, he's going to open a museum.
Is he?
I think that's his intention, is to eventually open a museum where people can go and see these internet monstrosities that have existed over here. I would not be surprised to find out if he has a Wangcaster, for example.
Well, the one that I've seen a million times on online that I would actually play, but I don't know if I'd pay for it, is the Millennium Falcon guitar.
Yeah. I know the bass or whatever. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, somebody finally made a guitar version of that. That's the only one. Yeah, the Millennium Falcon bass is the one that came up first. I think those are the only ones where I would go, yeah, that would be pretty funny.
There's some cool sword guitars out there. I've seen some cool sword guitars.
I've never seen any sword guitars. If you guys have seen a weird guitar that you're like,
yeah, post it in the group for sure.
Post it in the group, and no matter how weird,
we love them. We'll sit and talk about it for an hour or two. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. Messed up looking it is. Post it. Put it in the group.
Jim's not going to say anything bad about Trogley, and I feel remiss because I watched my first Trogley video yesterday, and
all right, I'll say it.
No. I'm going to do it. I'm taking care of business here. Just patience. When you wipe a guitar of a vintage age with a piece of paper towel and brown comes off, that is probably a mixture of maybe cigarette smoke, maybe DNA.
Yep.
But probably mostly the finish.
Yeah. Paper towel is like sandpaper.
Well, and on these older instruments, correct me if I'm wrong, the SG you showed me was like 70s vintage?
Yes, it was vintage 70s or early 80s. And I think it was an 80.
It had no clear left on it.
No.
So that was absolutely finished he was wiping off. And he's sitting there going, oh, this.
And then he put it under black light and goes, look, there's finish.
Look how dirty it is. He goes, look how dirty it is. And I'm going, dude, you're wiping the finish off. Like, what are you doing?
Who uses a paper towel?
Yeah. Like, come on, man. Lint-free cloth or something. Shit.
So this is a guy that supposedly knows his shit. I am sure he knows his shit.
I'm sure he does. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe paper towel won't wipe off finish on a 30-year-old guitar, and it's, got no clear left on it.
So for those who don't know, we should probably post the link to that. I'll resend you the link.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like a faded, but not a faded. It was a walnut SG. So
it'd been heavily played. That's
a heavily played Smoky Bar walnut SG. Now I'm a guy who played a lot of Smoky Bars. Matter of fact, every bar was smoky. Oh my God, please. And so
you got the black lung.
Right. I had to learn how to get rid of smoke on my guitars. So what I did was I always carried a lint-free cloth from a guitar maintenance kit. And I kept a clean one at home, and I had one with me at the gig. The one at the gig obviously had got smoke in it, but I was wiping my sweat off with it. That way my DNA wasn't ruining my finish. And when I got home, I would then take a light amount of guitar cleaner, maintenance cleaner, and just wipe the finish lightly, but never with a paper towel. Anybody will tell you, if you have a pair of glasses...
Yeah, you wipe with paper towel, your glasses are screwed.
Right. I mean, that's just 101, that paper towel is like light sandpaper. And so if you take the light sandpaper plus the fact that you've got, admittedly, old dust and particles in there, and you're wiping particles with sandpaper. You're adding sandpaper to the sandpaper.
Yeah.
So what you want to be able to do is lift it, not wipe it around. That's the whole idea behind the guitar maintenance stuff. And maybe he knows something that I don't know. I never use that. And I never had a guitar. He says, yeah, it still smells. It still smells because you haven't taken anything off. You're just wiping it around. It's like using water to remove grease. You're not doing anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, so wood, it's porous. And if you got no clear left on the guitar, no clear lacquer on top, that's your protective layer.
Right.
It's going to absorb cigarette smoke. It may never come completely clean of that cigarette smoke. It may not. But I'll tell you right now, doing what he's doing, that's damaging the guitar. Whether it has anything to do with the cigarette smoke or the fact that it's, reacted with the paint over the years or whatever. Why would you do that to what is essentially a vintage instrument? It's ridiculous. So, and then of course he goes on and he does his whole thing and it's fine. And, I get it. Every demo reviewer does their own thing. And some guys are better player than others and all that. And I can get with that. But when I saw him do the paper towel thing, I went, what in the hell is happening here?
So those of you who do take care of your guitars and wipe them down, what do you use? I mean, there's two sides to this wiping down your guitar thing. There's the side that I take. I like my guitar to look pristine.
Pristine and clean, right?
Yep.
I've got guitars I've never cleaned, Jim.
Yeah. I was going to say, but if you want that road-worn look, wiping your guitar off all the time and stuff, probably not the best thing you can do.
I can't turn my camera to show you, but
the
S500, my pride and joy.
Yep.
Never cleaned it.
My son's the same way. His fretboard on his acoustic looks like, oh my God. I'm looking at my old acoustic, and I was a constant cleaner, and the fretboard, I can see all the gunk and DNA.
Oh, yeah, no, that happens. So.
Here's the use.
So the thing with the S500, I decided not to clean it, though, because I wanted it, if I could get the finish to be less glossy, I probably would. Yeah. But I'm not going to sit there with steel wool or anything to dull it. Because the one that I wanted it to model after was not glossy like that at all. So it's just one of those things. Like eventually it will wear. Even poly wears. I know people are like, well, your poly guitar will look good 20 years from now.
No, eventually
let me tell you, I've seen some poly guitars that look like nitro.
And the biggest thing is, if you really want that poly to wear down fast, don't wipe it off.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly it, Jim. That's I'm not cleaning this thing.
Here's the thing that some of these guys, and it's going to go to the live musician versus in the house musician. If you're sitting around in the house and you're just sitting in a chair and everything is nice and you're not sweating, that's one thing. You're up on that stage, your sweat is like Saturday night when I played, the sweat was pouring off my hair, it was pouring off my arms. It was just my shirt was literally soaked. I had the front of the guitar sweat, the back of the car was covered in sweat. I was like, yep, this is good. This is going to wear this finish out just fine. Now, I still wiped it off at the end of the night. Let me tell you something. I was working that in.
You're wanting that Palin Blue SG to turn green, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. That thing is, if it's going to turn green, it's going to turn green because of me.
Well, you got to leave it in the sun then. That's what causes it. Because it's actually the clear yellows.
A lot of those outdoor gigs, that'll get it.
So there's Shengzai back here. I was going to ask you. We didn't talk about that. So I got pickups for the. I got pickups for the Shengzai from Nick Bonger's Great Lake Custom Pickup or Great Lake Pickups.
Yep.
If you're interested, I can give you his contact information. I've invited him to join the group. I don't know why he hasn't yet. But anyway, he made me a set of pickups, and they're dynamite in this guitar. And the Red Unicorn will ride again. I will play it.
Yes.
So the funny thing though is that what I wanted to ask you specifically was pick guard or no pick guard.
No pick guard. It's a Shengzai. Get rid of it. Get the pick guard off it.
Yeah, I think
It's not a Les Paul. Get the pick guard off of it. Play it without the pick guard and beat the shit out of this thing because you want this. You want that. You want that to look like a relic.
I'm going to beat the hell out of it. I think you're right. Yeah. Well, it's already relic on the back of the headstock.
My son was telling me about his acoustic. I said, "Man, that thing's wearing good." He goes, "Yeah,
looks like Trigger.
The hell out of it.
Looks like Trigger."
It does.
Pretty soon, there's going to be a giant hole in the top, and it's a finger rest.
He is. He's doing it. He's trying to do the Willie Nelson thing, something fierce. I said, "Good for you, buddy. Keep beating the shit out of it."
You see him playing dice on the guitar. He's like rolling dice on the guitar.
Yep. I mean, now, so folks, if you don't know, David bought that Shengzai guitar, which was originally Bad Cat Instruments, who went under a couple weeks ago, as far as we can tell.
Yep. We covered that in fall.
So it's going to be worth like $1 million in a few years, right?
No, if it's going to be worth, it's going to be worth like $5. $5 at the flea market.
Oh my God! So many people were buying into their stuff.
My parts are worth more than the guitar.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at your numbers now. So you put how much money? How much did it cost to begin with? 300 and
no, it was $275, I think.
Well, yeah, you bought the case. Was what put you over 300?
Yeah, it was like $320 or something.
So let's say 275. Let's say 270, and you haven't replaced the bridge yet.
No, that's the last piece, and that's going to happen.
Yeah, you replaced the tuners.
The tuners, that was $70. Yep. I think it was like $20 install after I fucked them up, and then let's see what else. The tuners, the nut. There was this initial setup, so that would have been 120 all told together there. And then there was pickups, installation, 50s wiring, because I had that done too. Which they replaced every piece of wire on this thing. They pulled the pickups out, or they pulled the pickups out. I didn't even ask for them, to be honest with you. And then like they put all new pots. They put a new jack on it. They replaced the switch. Like, it's completely new guts. Basically, I bought a body and a neck from Shingsei.
With a cool logo.
Yeah, it has a cool logo. Everybody comments, that fucking Bad Cat logo is awesome.
That is a cool logo. Somebody needs to take that now. Now that they're defunct, somebody should use that.
Yeah, Bad Cat Amplification should use it.
Yeah.
They sued him anyway.
Yep.
So the only thing left is the hardware. And I already know what I'm gonna buy. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. And I'm just gonna have it installed. I don't even want to dick with it. When it's done, it's gonna be a badass guitar. Like, honestly, right now it plays like a $700 guitar. So,
yeah, it sounds awesome.
When you first
played that thing, when you first played that thing, it sounded like ass. Just total shit.
Jim, you know what'll kill you about that clip you heard?
Yeah,
it was played through the internal speaker in the Katana.
Yeah, see that you're gonna. That's like folks. You need to do a video where you're shooting it through the Mark V.
What the Shigsei?
Yeah,
it's coming.
Yes,
I may have already recorded the footage.
May have, mayhaps. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I've been Jim,
and I have been David,
and this has been
the Practical Guitarist. And I didn't know we were ending. So, yeah. Goodbye, folks.
Bye.